Chapter 7. Echoes. The mess hall was too quiet. Lang sat at the far end of the table, frost still crusted in the seams of his suit. He had stripped off the gloves and helmet, but not the rest. The fabric steamed faintly in the recycled air. He didn't look exhausted. He looked steady. Kira stood near the bulkhead, arms folded tight. It shouldn't be. Lang's eyes moved over them one by one, not searching, counting. He stopped on Ro, and a faint smile tugged at his mouth. Still carving. Ro's hand flexed on the table, his jaw locked, but he didn't answer. Beneath the table, his knife dug too deep into the wood he carried, leaving a ragged splinter. He stilled his hand as if he realized he'd let something slip. Nico leaned back, arms crossed. Cute trick. What am I thinking right now?
Lang's gaze flicked to him. You think about her when she isn't looking. Nico flushed, his smirk collapsing. He glanced at Kira, mouth half open, caught between denial and shock. Kira's eyes met his for a heartbeat, then turned away too fast. What unsettled her wasn't Nico's look. It was how easily Lang had spoken the thought aloud, like reading it from a meter.
The smirk faltered. Silence spread. Kira's eyes flicked to Nico, then away too fast. Her chest tightened, not at the truth of it, but at the way Lang had peeled it out so casually, like reading a gauge. Volkov broke it. I run a backtrace. His entry point doesn't exist. Kira turned. Explain. I've pulled logs for all hatch cycles in the last 6 hours. Nothing. Internal cams in 2A and 3C went blind for 90 seconds, then came back showing him already inside.
Nico leaned back with a snort. That's neat. Guy shows up out of nowhere and suddenly our logs are blind. Cass's eyes locked on Lang. So it was you, wasn't it? Resetting panels, wiping feeds, making the base lie to us. At least now we know who's been screwing with the systems. The room went very still. Lang looked genuinely puzzled, brows knitting. I don't know what you mean. Ro's knife dug a little deeper into the wood in his hand, then stilled.
Blind how? Ro asked. Static, not deletion, like the feed was never there, almost like the system blinked on purpose. Kira's jaw tightened, and his biosign? Volkov hesitated. Matches archived medical for Lang, down to the blood type, but the temporal stamp reads today. Nico muttered, so the station thinks he's alive because maybe he is. Ro's voice was quiet, or because something wants us to believe that. Lang didn't flinch. He just sat with his hands folded, listening. The speakers cracked. Static burst across the room in 3 uneven pulses, like something knocking against the hull in a slow rhythm, before a voice bled through. Survivors, breach, not. Human voice, do not. Everyone froze. Volkov scrambled to stabilize the feed. Header codes stamped across the screen. McMurdo relay. Cass's eyes lit. It's them. They're alive. No, Kira said flatly. McMurdo's dead. Ro leaned closer. That didn't sound dead. Volkov frowned at her console, locking onto Origin. Wait, the trace keeps looping through Annex 4B. Kira stiffened. The annex is sealed. Volkov glanced at Lang, then back to her readouts. Doesn't matter, it's active, right now.
Nico leaned forward, eyes narrowing on Lang. So if the signal's firing from 4B, if he's been our saboteur, how's that possible while he's sitting right here. Cass's voice was low, tight. Unless there's more than one.
Rose's eyes narrowed. Or one of us has been opening that annex without logging it. The silence stretched. No one wanted to look at anyone else for too long. Kira finally cut in, voice sharp. Enough. We stay with what's in front of us. But even as she said it, the thought lingered. If it wasn't Lang, then who? Cass's hands balled at her sides, knuckles white. The silence pressed in, heavier than the storm outside, until she snapped forward, patch a reply.
Her voice cracked, more pleading than defiant. If it's McMurdo, if even one of them made it, we can't ignore it. You can't ask us to.
Kira cut her off. No, not until we know what we're doing. Cass shoved her aside, fingers slamming the console. McMurdo, this is Echo Point. Do you read? The line hissed. A hollow reply bled through, warped. Echo, copy, breach, then silence. Cass's knuckles whitened on the panel, her hands shook, nails scraping plastic. The fight in her eyes gave way to something rawer, the fear of being unheard. They heard us. Run it again. Volkov tried. The system stuttered, error lines crawling her display. It's refusing the return path. Every time I send, the signal bounces back to us.
If it is McMurdo, why answer only now? She frowned. Origin trace says McMurdo, but the loop keeps folding through our own relay. It shouldn't do that.
Rose's face was unreadable, or like someone else is holding the wire. Kira pulled Cass back from the console. Enough. That wasn't McMurdo. Cass looked ready to shove her way forward again, then stopped, trembling. If it was them and we just ignored it, Kira cut her off. If it was them, they'd be alive. They're not. Before Cass could reply, another alarm cut through. A dull, repeating tone, red text flashing across the main console. External array misaligned, signal relay offline. Volkov checked. Storm torque. The dish has rotated out of alignment. If we don't reset it manually, we can't confirm or block transmissions. Kira's jaw locked. Then we go outside. I'll do it, Cass said immediately. Denied. You need me. Nico can't haul the brace alone. Nico grimaced. She's not wrong. Rose straightened. Send me instead.
No, Kira said. You stay on comms. I'll lead. Reyes and Cass with me. Volkov monitors.
Cass's fury simmered, but she said nothing. She just stood there, shaking, caught between anger and the hollow sting of being left behind. They began gathering gear, the quiet broken only by the hiss of oxygen canisters and the snap of seals. From the end of the table, Lang finally spoke, calm, almost gentle. You'll see things out there. Don't follow them. Kira froze. And how would you know that? Lang's smile didn't reach his eyes. Because I've walked that storm before.
The words landed with weight, but not like memory, more like a script, rehearsed and waiting for its cue.
The room went still. Outside, the wind screamed against the walls as if answering for him.
Chapter 8. Whiteout. The airlock cycled with a groan that reverberated in their ribs. Frost webbed the seals, trembling as the pressure shifted. Kira stood in the lead suit, visor down, her faceplate black as obsidian. She checked the tether reel at her hip, once, twice. Behind her, Nico wrestled the clamp on his gauntlet until it sealed with a hard snap. Cass moved more slowly, fumbling at her wrist seal until Nico leaned over and locked it for her. "Comms check," Kira said. "Clear," Nico answered. Cass hesitated a beat too long. "Clear." Rose's voice came from control, calm and even. "Cass, your heart rate's high. Slow your breathing." "I'm fine," she said too quickly. Rose didn't press. "Storms at 150 sustained. Visibility 0 at 30 meters. If you lose tether, you won't find your way back." Nico muttered, inspiring as always. Kira ignored him. "On me, no stragglers, eyes forward." The outer hatch opened. The storm didn't creep in, it roared, a wall of sound and force that made the chamber shudder. Snow blasted sideways through the gap, devouring light, filling the space with a horizontal blur of white. The noise wasn't just weather, it had a rhythm, a deep pulse beneath the shrieking gusts, as if the wind carried something breathing with it. Kira stepped out first, tether clipped to the guide rail. Nico followed, already leaning against the gale. Feels like walking into a jet engine. Cass lingered, staring at the storm like it was a living thing. Then she shoved herself forward. Her tether snapped taut behind her, vibrating with the wind's pull. They moved in a line, bent low, their blue HUD lines glowing faintly in the blizzard. Every step dragged, boots crunching on ice that shifted under them like glass. Cass's breath rasped through the comms, loud and uneven. Rose's voice cut in, soft but firm. "Don't fight the gusts. Lean with them. Small steps, deliberate." Cass obeyed, but her pulse was still hammering. Rose's voice steadied her more than the tether ever could. The storm howled so deep, it seemed to live in their bones. They reached the first brace. Metals screamed under strain, vibrating through their gloves into their arms. Nico braced his boot and shoved the locking pin into place. "Talk's insane. It's like the dish wants to peel away," he grunted. "Next anchor," Kira said. Cass glanced sideways. The storm wasn't empty. Shapes moved in it, tall, narrow, human silhouettes. They leaned in unison, perfectly still against the gale, as if the wind bent around them. When she blinked, they vanished. When she blinked again, they were closer. Her throat closed. "Kira, do you see that?" "See what?" "People, standing out there. Only snow, only noise. Eyes forward," Kira snapped.
Nico's voice crackled in her ear. "I don't see a damn thing."
They pressed on. The dish loomed from the white, tilted, ribs crusted in ice, one anchor half torn from its foundation. Nico clipped in, breath steaming inside his visor. Kira cranked the strut. The dish resisted, groaned, then shuddered back into alignment. Rose's voice sharpened. "Signal stabilizing. Steady. Hold it there. Locked. Alignment is stable." Cass let out a shaky laugh. "We did it! We actually—" Her tether jerked. She froze. The line snapped taut around her waist, dragging her one step backward into the storm. "Kira!" Kira lunged, grabbing the tether. "Reyes, on me!" Nico planted his boots and heaved. The line thrummed under Cass's ribs, pulling her slowly, relentlessly. "Something's on her," Nico hissed. Cass's visor fogged with panic. She saw it, a figure in the white, visor dark, frost-armored suit. Her tether wrapped in its hands. It tilted its head, the exact tilt Lang had given hours earlier in the mess hall. Then her comm crackled. A voice bled through, not Lang's, her own, distorted, delayed, off by a heartbeat. "We did it. We actually—" Her chest locked. "Lang," she whispered. "Cass," Kira barked.
Eyes on me, now. The tether slackened all at once. Cass pitched forward into Kira's grip, gasping. Nico reeled the line back fast, muscles straining until the coil lay slack in his hands.
Cass's HUD timer jumped 3 full seconds. She hadn't blinked. The gap sat there, missing, like someone had cut a strip out of time.
Nothing there, he panted. So either we've got 2 Langs or the base just learned impressions. Cass knew what she'd seen. Ro's voice cracked sharply through the storm. Inside, now. They turned back, dragging themselves step by step. Twice Cass stumbled, and twice Nico caught her under the arm. The storm hammered at their suits, trying to tear them away. The station's lights swum into view, blurred, haloed beacons in the white. They staggered into the lock, sealed the hatch, and silence collapsed around them. Kira leaned hard against the wall, helmet dripping melt. Nico dropped onto the bench, tearing off his gloves, fingers shaking. Cass ripped off her helmet, gasping for cold air. Her face was bloodless, hair damp and plastered to her skin. It was him, out there. He had the line. Nico rubbed his face with unsteady hands, so either we've got 2 Langs or the base just learned impressions. Ro's voice was low. Not pulled, invited. Then invited by what? Him? Or something wearing his face? Cass flinched, hugging her arms tight. The echo of her own voice still rang in her head. Too close, too exact. For the first time, she wondered if she could even trust her own mouth. Kira said nothing. Her visor display flickered, the seconds stuttering. She shut it off and pulled the helmet free, jaw clenched. For once, her silence spoke louder than orders.
The corridor lights flickered. A door hissed open, slow and deliberate. Somewhere down the hall, the hiss stretched too long, like breath moving through the station itself. Cass's eyes widened, breath ragged. It followed us in.
The greenhouse corridor reeked of damp soil and metal. Condensation beaded the glass, dripping in slow rivulets into drains that should have been dry. Cass crouched beside a hydroponic frame, running her finger along a jagged fracture. No alarm. Glass split like this and the system logged nothing. Nico leaned in the doorway, pale but forcing a smirk. Guess the Kale finally staged a revolt. Volkov shook her head, scanner steady. The system marked it as maintenance. No breach, no fault. That's not maintenance. Cass jabbed at the crack. That's deliberate. Ro lifted a shard from the floor. Frost clung to the edges like breath caught mid-freeze. He held it to the light. It wanted this buried. Here, Kiara's voice cut through. They turned. She stood over a sealed case, half hidden beneath collapsed soil bags. Its latch gleamed as if new. Stenciled on the side, Lang, tools. Volkov brushed off dirt, her face unreadable. This wasn't logged. She tilted the lid, so the grease pencil words became visible. Do not trust system. The words looked desperate, carved deep by a shaking hand. Cass's stomach dropped. That wasn't here yesterday. Nico's smirk died. So he left that, or he hasn't yet. All eyes turned to Lang. He only watched them, calm and unreadable. Kiara forced her gaze away. Volkov,
Status on McMurdo. Volkov's fingers flew. Still dead. Her voice faltered. Wait. The holo table refreshed, overlaying schematics with a new pulse, a clean, crisp ping, McMurdo's relay signature. Cass backed up. No, that's the same fake signal, ghost code. Not the same, Volkov whispered. Stronger, closer. 3 sharp pulses. Silence. The lights flickered, then from the outside, beams of white sliced through the storm. Kiara froze. That's not possible. The sound came next. Faint, then swelling into the steady, bone-deep chop of rotors. Nico's voice was thin. Tell me I'm not hearing helicopters. Floodlight beams swept across the greenhouse glass, bleaching the corridor in harsh glare. A voice cracked over comms, metallic and clipped. Stand by. Extraction, inbound. Kiara barked. No one moves, no one opens a thing. But the outer locks were already cycling. Snow roared inside as the bulkhead thundered open. Figures pushed through, dark uniforms, rifles slung, visors black. Their movements were perfect, practiced. Their helmets bore crude stitched patches. McMurdo. The font was wrong, the colors slightly off. Counterfeit. Identify yourselves, Kiara shouted, stepping into their path. No reply. The soldiers fanned out, boots whisper quiet on wet steel. 2 halted in front of Lang. He did not resist. He stepped forward as though rehearsed. Wait, Cass lunged. You can't take him. He's the only one who knows what's happening. Rowe caught her, hauling her back. She thrashed, nearly breaking free. One soldier turned, rifle raised. The mirrored visor reflected her wide, frantic face. And then it leaned in, slowly. Its gloved hand rose and brushed the side of her helmet, across the curve of her cheek plate, lingering as though memorizing her outline. The glass fogged with her breath. Cass went rigid, throat locked, her comm hissed, and her own voice bled back at her, distorted, off by a breath. You can't take him. She gasped. Rowe wrenched her away, shoving her against the wall. Cass! His voice cracked like a whip. They walk like men, but they're not men. She trembled, staring at her reflection in the visor, a reflection that smiled when she didn't. The rotor thunder swelled until the floor shook. Frost rained from the ceiling, dust spilling from vents. The glass walls of the greenhouse rattled like drums, every pane threatening to shatter. Nico stumbled, thrown against the support strut. This whole place is gonna come apart. The soldiers didn't flinch. They shifted Lang between them, as if moving him through a drill. Kira shoved herself forward, chin raised. If you're McMurdo, prove it. Show me Delta 47 clearance. McMurdo command only. No response. They brushed past her as if she were air. Cass ripped free from Rowe, desperate. Stop! She lunged again. A soldier's rifle swung toward her chest. For a fraction of a second, the mirrored visors showed not her reflection, but Lang's face, flickering, pitying. Lang glanced back, eyes sweeping the crew, not pleading, pitying. Then he whispered, so faint it might have been in their heads, "You let me in." and he was gone, swallowed by floodlight and snow. The bulkhead is sealed. Silence fell like a lid. On the holotable, text scrolled smoothly and calmly. Status: optimal. No record of breach, no helicopters, no Lang. Cass's voice cracked. Did any of that really happen? Rose's answer was low. We were meant to doubt it. Kiara's fists clenched. She forced the words out like steel. We stopped believing in the green lights. From here on, we trust nothing but ourselves. The lights above them dimmed, flickered, then steadied. When Volkov checked her wrist display, the station clock had leapt forward 13 minutes.